fans of high quality entertainment. So I was listening to a certain album last night, and I was remembering and really loving what I was hearing. But I was also remembering the very first time I played this particular album, and I hated it. Hated it. But even if I buy an album and I don't like it at all, I force myself to listen to it from beginning to end and give it a chance. And then I put it away for a while sometimes. So these are 10 albums that I, maybe not all of them I hated, but I just didn't like them. And they're in no particular order. So here we go. Now, I've been a huge Yes fan for, I've always really liked them a lot, but in the last, I say 10 years, I've become a huge fan. I have all of their albums, the ones with John Anderson, including Drama. But this album, the very first time I listened to it, I didn't like it at all. And I kind of ignored it for quite a while. And then just slowly, I warmed up to it, and now it would be in my top 5 Yes albums. I'm covering up his butt because of YouTube. There, you saw it. Yeah, Yes, Going for the One. I just found, even now, I wish it was produced better. It's especially the opening song, Going for the One. I feel it's too cluttered and too busy. And I think I've heard that they don't have the master tapes anymore, so Steven Wilson can't remix it like he has other Yes albums. But yeah, I've grown to, overall I've grown to really love the album. And Awaken, the final track, is definitely one of my favorite Yes songs. Yeah, Turn of the Century, Parallels, Wondrous Stories is so good. And so yeah, I'm now a fan of Going for the One, which I used to dislike. Now, some of you know I've become a huge Beach Boys fan. But a few months back, before I liked the Beach Boys a few months back, but wasn't a huge fan. But it kind of started, I think it kind of did start, well, between Pet Sounds, finally really appreciating that album and loving it as much as a lot of Beach Boys fans do. But this album, it was part of an album exchange. And the very first time I listened to it on Spotify, I thought it was stupid, seriously. And the songs were really short. They would fade out really quickly, and the album was only like 25 minutes long, and I didn't like it. I thought, I'm going to be giving this a bad review. But because, the album exchange, you had to listen to the albums a few times. On the second listen, I started to pick up on these melodies, and by the third listen, I was completely hooked. And I'm talking about Friends. There they are. So yeah, between Friends and Pet Sounds, I started to slowly realize just how good the Beach Boys really were and how creative, and they would take a lot of chances on their albums. Paul McCartney is my favorite artist of all time, solo artist. But when I bought this, maybe the first couple of times I listened to it, I thought it was just boring. I was expecting some, like Junior's Farm or whatever, and it was all just kind of boring and did not like it at all. But now, along with Ram, it is my favorite Paul McCartney album. Chaos and Creation in the Backyard. If you've listened to this and you just thought, didn't think much of it, or just thought it was okay, I highly suggest give it a couple more listens. Go listen to it. Now, after this video is done. Wait a few minutes. All right, we're into some prog. So this band is definitely, prog rock, but this album is more like I was really turned off by it the first couple of listens because it didn't sound like any of their other albums. It was more poppy than progressive rock. But now, after listening to it, giving it a chance, I would say it might possibly be my favorite album by the band Nektar. Down to Earth.
All I am saying is give albums a chance. Thank you.
Now, I've talked about this album quite a few times, so it'll be quick. Huge fan of this band ever since 1975. When this album came out, I think I played it once, and it just felt like they were going way too commercial, way too poppy. Female singers on the title track, big turnoff for me at the time. And so, like I said, I kind of listened to it maybe once or twice and then kind of ignored it. And then when I got the box set a few years ago, I listened to it again, and I realized, you know what? This is actually an excellent album. It's underrated. It's Blue Öyster Cult's Mirrors. Look at those cool dudes. Yeah. Dr. Music, the opening song, it has these female singers in the background, and I love the song now. I think it's commercial, but it's catchy, and it's a really good song. Yeah, Lonely Teardrops, The Vigil, You're Not the One I Was Looking For, which, from what I've been reading in Blue Öyster Cult books, Albert Bouchard was doing a parody of the Cars. They were just getting popular on the radio, and the producer didn't know about the Cars at the time, and he said, "That's a good song, we're putting it on the album." And Albert Bouchard actually didn't want it on the album because it was like a carbon copy of the Cars sound. But it's actually, I actually do like the song, so I'm glad it's on the album. Now, I was going to choose Sparks, Kimono My House, but I've talked about that album many times. But it's not the only album. When the first time I heard a Sparks album, I didn't like it. So when Kimono My House came out, I didn't like that right away, but I quickly got to love it. And then Propaganda, I love Propaganda right away. And then, so that was their third and fourth albums, and then I was in Toronto one day and I picked up their first and second album. So Sparks, originally released as Half Nelson, and A Woofer and Tweeter's Clothing. They were both really different from Kimono My House and Propaganda, but I did like their debut album, Sparks, and I love it. I really love it today. But A Woofer and Tweeter's Clothing was weird. It was nothing like any of their other albums that I loved. And so yeah, it took me a few listens to warm up to it, and now I absolutely love A Woofer and Tweeter's Clothing. Now, for Captain Beefheart, he's had, maybe 2 or 3 albums that I didn't like at first. I've talked about Trout Mask Replica before. I think a lot of people don't like that on the first listen. But another one that, I wanted to really like, but I was, almost forcing myself to like, and I really didn't. But over time, a few listens, I got to truly love Dock at the Radar Station. Now, if you think that album cover's weird, and the back cover, just wait until you hear the music. But yeah, a lot of it's more hard-edged than the Trout Mask Replica. Excellent guitar work. There's the band. It's probably my second favorite Captain Beefheart album after Shiny Beast, Bat Chain Puller. The best. As some of you know, I've become a big fan of Can in the last 8 months or so. And I loved Future Days right away, but with further listens I loved it even more, and then Tego Mago. But when I bought their debut album, which had a different singer, the first time I played it, it's like, oh, this is disappointing. I'm not going to get into this, man. And it has become possibly my favorite Can album, Monster Movie. Although Tego Mago might be my number one. Or Future Days. All right, 2 more to go. The Clash, their debut album, I bought it, loved it. Was so excited when their second album was released, produced by Öyster Cult's producer, Sandy Pearlman. And I did not like it at all. I liked Safe European Home, English Civil War, and Tommy Gunn, the first 3 songs. I thought, yeah, they're good. And then everything else I did not like. But once I got the box set a couple of years ago, I love this. I love this more than the debut. It's my second favorite after Sandinista. All right, this is the final album I'm going to talk about. It's the one I was listening to last night. I played it many, many times. And I was remembering I only had one of their albums. I'm talking about Ween. I had Quebec. Once again, it was an album exchange, so I had to listen to it. And I loved it almost, I think, right away. But when I bought this one, it was like completely different. The production wasn't very good. The songs were weird and stupid and annoying. So I seriously hated it the first time I played it all the way through. And then the second time, I started to, like certain songs. And then the third time, I loved it. I'm talking about Ween, the pod. And also Pure Gava, the next album, same thing. I hated it on the first listen. And the thing about Ween is they are seriously one of the weirdest bands I've ever heard. They do a lot of crazy songs. But there's times they'll do a song and it's just seriously beautiful. It's like a love song, and they're just all over the place is what I love about Ween. And they can make you laugh, they can make you cry. So, Ween the Pod. Any album by Ween, probably. And that is it. Let me know in the comment section below, what are some albums you did not like the first time you listened to them, and then you warmed up to them and you became a fan of the album. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like the video and subscribe to both of my channels. Have a great day. Bye.